Tonight on Russian State TV, the mood is grim. Look at their faces. The deputy chairman of the defense committee admits that Russia desperately needs to stop and regroup, and is experiencing all sorts of shortages, and compared to Ukraine that has it all and then some. Ooh, let's keep going. We got some more Russian media monitor, more Russian responses to the fall of Lyman. Lyman, of course, was captured recently, and it caused massive Russian casualties, just buses of Russian soldiers getting torn to shreds, and it produced stunned reactions from the Ukrainian capturing of the city. Andrei Gulyov, a former deputy commander of the Russian Southern Military District, said he couldn't explain the defeat. He blamed it on a system of lives from top to bottom and was suddenly disconnected. This will be one of Russia's national holidays, which will turn to a glorious, difficult, bloody page of Russia's return where it used to be, where it will be, and where it already is, although not completely. But everything went wrong, so we'll put this topic aside to be discussed later. Naturally, we'll start with the events on the Ukrainian front. Listen to him. Listen how happy he is to talk about Ukraine. He's so excited. He's really hyped to show everybody the news out of Lyman. We'll start with Lyman. Those who pay attention to the news already know. Lyman has officially surrendered. Thank God, this time the defense ministry, decided not to take a theatrical pause and released an official statement. That's what happened today. But by the way, it didn't happen yesterday. Perhaps it's an inconvenient topic. Many won't want to discuss it, guaranteed. Even yesterday, there were some questions as to whether another concert should have been held, while the defenders of Lyman were holding on with their last strength, held off the attacks and readied for their retreat. Their retreat was a disaster, by the way. From all reports, I mean, they just got mowed down. They basically just ran towards Russian positions, unorganized, just basically every man for themselves, and they were torn apart by Russian HIMARS and artillery. I mean, massive casualties. I don't have an answer or a recipe for that. Russia won yesterday. I'm not conducting any psychotherapy. I don't think that is necessary. Unfortunately, we're having a bad day of not so good news. But thank God we don't have to be quiet about them. Like it was with the Kharkiv regrouping. The Defense Ministry officially announced that Lyman was abandoned. Explain to us, did you anticipate this or not? Was it inevitable or anticipated? Why did it happen? For several months now, not only are we not advancing, we are retreating. What's happening? I can't explain the surrender of Lyman. Excellent answer. Honestly, from a military standpoint, I can't explain it. Perhaps this is a landmark milestone. Not only in a military sense, but also politically. Honestly, can't understand why after all this time, they couldn't accurately appraise the situation. Why they didn't make a decision to reinforce the group that was defending Lyman. The thing is, they did, from what I heard, they did flood it with more troops to defend it. It just wasn't enough, and there was no counteroffensive around Lyman to stop the Ukrainian advance. No matter how heroically they fought, there's an elementary calculation of military capabilities, which shows whether Lyman could be held or not. The problem we have is that the constant delivery of good reports, or you can call it constant lying, the system does not go from the bottom to the top, but top to bottom.
Мгм.
Вот. И надо понимать, что
Андрей Викторович, у нас пропало изображение.
We lost your
Давайте быстрее
connection.
подключимся. Андрей Викторович, вы с нами?
Ooh. I mean, that could have been anything. I mean, that could have been purposefully, they purposely disconnected him because, you know, he was saying like, hey man, this seems to be an issue with our command. It's an issue from top to bottom. Like maybe it could have been, or he could have just like fallen out. I mean, it could have just been he got disconnected. I know how internet connection is. And internet infrastructure in Russia isn't the best, to be completely honest. Uh-oh, suicide by 24 bullets in the back incoming. Amen. Amen. Next one. Tonight, oh, this was very recent. Tonight on Russian state TV, the mood is grim. Look at their faces. The deputy chairman of the defense committee admits that Russia desperately needs to stop and regroup, and is experiencing all sorts of shortages, and compared to Ukraine that has it all and then some. Ooh, boy. This one will be fun. Actually, I need to go use the bathroom. I'll be right back. So, in the meantime, I'm going to play some footage of Ukrainians that actually, you know what? Better option. I'm going to play an ad made by the Russian government, an updated ad for the month of October of what it's like to be in Russia, what it's like to live in Russia, you know, to convince more people to move to Russia. They hired me. I know it's a strange choice, but, you know, you are the guys they want to convince, right? You are the people who support Ukraine. Maybe you should support Russia. Well, listen to this ad so they can tell you what it's like to live in the glorious Russian Federation right now and why you should move there. Okay, I'm back. Let's listen to what Russian state TV has to say about the recent defeats the Russian military has faced in Ukraine. The war against Russia never stopped. In the 1990s, when we were under occupation, when they unleashed the Cold War, when our buildings in Moscow were blown up, we just couldn't tell it to our people. When we started to acquire our sovereignty, when the fuck was Russia occupied? What the fuck are they even talking about? When the fuck was Russia occupied? When did that happen? Who occupied Russia? When did that, what? When we started to acquire our sovereignty, little by little, the war has moved to the territory of Ukraine. It was transferred not to be for Ukraine, but as a confrontation between Russia and the West. We understand very well that the majority of Ukraine's population are Russian people. We always sort of tried to play by the rules. We remember the 2006 elections. We remember the presidential election. I won't speak to the president's qualities. I'm just saying these elections were for Russia. And the people who legitimately won these elections, all those people were from Russia. Everyone wants peace, but we have to estimate that the war right now is not for those 4 regions, or even for other regions of Russia. The war is happening over Russia, with our very existence on the line, to be or not to be. That's why I'm convinced we will win either way. We have no other option. We have to, what do we have to do to win? Okay, let me stop it here, okay? Because he's saying that this is a war of survival for the Russians. The Russians, if this is a war of survival, it was the Russian government who decided to put Russia's survival at stake. It was the Russian government which decided to annex Crimea. It was the Russian government who decided to back the rebels in the Donbass, to make them their proxy and support them. It was the Russian government who decided to amass massive amounts of soldiers on the border with Ukraine. And it was the Russian government who decided to invade Ukraine after launching a false flag. And it was the Russian government who has continued that invasion for almost 8 months now. If this is a war of survival for Russia, it was the Russians who caused the crisis of survival. It was the Russians who did it. And I find it hard to believe that if Russia was to withdraw from Ukraine, that necessarily would necessitate the complete collapse of the Russian Federation, meaning it would no longer survive. Not that it isn't possible, but even if it did, that wouldn't be the fault of Ukraine. That wouldn't be the fault of the West. It would be the fault of the decision makers who thought it was a good idea to invade Ukraine. I mean, even from a strategic perspective, it was stupid. Unless, of course, you're an egomaniac who thought the whole country would collapse in 3 days. I mean, if you really think about it, Ukraine couldn't join NATO because it has a territorial dispute over Crimea and the Donbass. Russian troops are within Ukrainian territory and they're still fighting over the Donbass, so they can't join NATO. There is no reason to believe that Ukraine was going to join NATO in the near future, and Russia still had control of Crimea and at least 1/3 of the Donbass. Honestly, Russia was in a great position, and they jeopardized that position by being too greedy. And now it looks like they're going to get none of Ukraine, neither Crimea or the Donbass, if things continue as they're continuing right now. And so this isn't a question about the survival of the Russian Federation. This is a question about the survival of the Russian imperial project outside of the Federation, in places like Ukraine. We have to restructure everything. Unquestionably, we have to restructure our industry. We have to understand no one is going to help us. We don't have and will not have allies, except for our army and navy. We need to restructure our industry to be self-sufficient. Import substitution have massively failed in Russia, and they're not going to be able to take it off of its feet for years upon years until they can get to like some North Korea style Juche, where a self-sufficient military type system. They can't do that in the near future. They certainly can't do that for this war. To provide our armed forces with all that is needed, the army should not be experiencing lack of munitions, missiles, and mortars. I totally agree. We're not fighting against Ukraine. You are. But there is equipment and weaponry at 55 countries. Before they say they will deliver it, it's already there. It's already been brought a long time ago. There's a lot more aid over there. I can tell you for sure that on the front lines, along the front line in the Donetsk Republic, everything there is foreign. They have it all. Radar systems, Caesar howitzers, M77 howitzers, etc. A lot of MLRS, not only HIMARS, they have others. All of that is foreign. They have no shortages whatsoever. Okay, that's not true. There is still shortages. Not in their ammunition, missiles, or anything else. The question is, how long will it take for us to restructure? And are we... What was that? How long will it take for us to restructure? And we are obligated to restructure. Unquestionably, that will take time. We should realize that industry can't be quickly rebuilt. We need to set up new equipment, factories, train people, supply the parts, or at least start doing it. All of these things the Russian economy is not set up to do, by the way. They're just not in a good position to do any of these things whatsoever. Everything he's saying right now, the Russian economy is in the worst position to do that they have been in the last 30 years since the collapse of the Soviet Union. Either way, we're obligated to do this. We also need to restructure journalism. We need to impose censorship and not be afraid of it. Oh, damn. Of course, there should be freedom and all that, but we have to understand that we live in hard times. We need to restructure our military command system. It also has to be restructured. We're seeing all the shortcomings right now. We should openly talk about all that is happening. and openly draw conclusions in order to win. Wait, on one hand, he's like, we need to censor more, but also we need to be more open in our discussions about the war. Come on, man. Look, if you're going to be an authoritarian, at least commit to it. Unless he's saying, of course, I can talk openly because my conclusions are always just bomb them more. Based on all of this, there should be set timelines. Since we understand that we're lacking resources, we need to move on to tough defense, and we have to dig in and mind the approaches. We need to let our mobilization resource to become well prepared. All of our reserve... Fucking hell, this text is moving so fast. 1 second. All of our reserves that are now being mobilized, we need to ensure that they're being brought into military actions knowably... Fucking Jesus Christ, it's talking so fast. Knowably and correctly, to make sure that they're being sent to the correct units. And not being sent straight to the front lines in the combat. Oh, that's already happening, by the way. They're already, like, taking fresh recruits, like people who served 20 years ago, giving them no refresher training and just sending them to the front. This has been admitted to. They should go into combat only once they're prepared. Today I can say, honor and praise our army. I love that every single thing he's saying that Russia has to do to win, properly train their soldiers, restructure their economy to produce these weapons, you know, all this stuff, is all things Russia cannot do. They just can't do it. It'd be like, it's like 1945 Japan. They're like, okay, here's an idea. How about we produce 10,000 planes and 5 aircraft carriers and 20 battleships? And all we have to do it is 2 sticks and a piece of straw. Good luck. Today I can say honor and praise to our army because everywhere they're fighting, the adversary outnumbers them 3 to 5 times, and that's just in manpower, not to mention military equipment. Despite that, they're inflicting the losses everywhere. We're causing 10 times more losses as compared to our own losses, which are also heavy. This is just not true, by the way. There's no person of any reliability that calculates Russian and Ukrainian casualties that's going to say that there's 10 dead Ukrainians for every 1 dead Russian. That is a ridiculous number. This is objective information which is available today. In these times, we should stop, regroup, prepare, accumulate reserves, and liberate those territories that are already part of the Russian Federation. We need to provide stability and security. You know, I gotta say, you know what this reminds me of when they talk about these like conscripts? This reminds me of the Volkssturm, when they talk about the so little training that they're gonna be getting. Do you guys know what the Volkssturm is? Do we got any military nerds in chat? Volkssturm. So the Volkssturm, very interesting group of people. They were these boys, okay? So the Volkssturm was a civilian army that the Nazis built, right? Basically what they would do is they would take these old rifles and they would take these old equipment and all of the spare stuff that whatever they could muster. They would get a bunch of civilians, give them basically almost no training, hand them this equipment, create these Volkssturm units. This was all Goebbels' plan, by the way. This was all like an SS thing. Give them like, I don't know, like a few days training, if that, and then send them out to fight in these huge Volkssturm military divisions, as you can see right there. That is basically, despite like a few changes, maybe a few more days training, what the Russians are doing, but they're doing it while invading Ukraine. They've made a civilian army, but to invade another country. Like, this is only semi-effective when defending, and I mean, even then it's not that effective, but they're trying to do that while attacking another country with that civilian army. They're gonna get slaughtered. We're gonna see casualties massively spike for the Russian Federation. We're already seeing that right now with the massive casualties in Lyman, the massive casualties on both sides in Kherson, right? But as they send more and more untrained conscripts with worse and worse equipment, tanks that work less and less, some tanks probably without functioning guns, it's just armor, right? Once we see that happen, I mean, the casualties are going to skyrocket. Unironically, man. My goodness. But yeah, that's what the Volkssturm is. The Volkssturm is like was like this like tiny little civilian army. It was like their last ditch attempt to try to save the Reich, which, you know, didn't really work, obviously. We need to provide stability and security to people on our territory and on that territory. We don't even need to doubt the people are for us. They aren't, but okay. More than that, I'm convinced that further into the territory of Ukraine, people will also be for us. Dude, this motherfucker thinks Lviv and Kiev are gonna be for the Russians. Look at this nerd. The overwhelming majority of Ukraine's population will also be for us. We're coming with our just cause. Freeing them from this is like you're like a week, like a girl's read your DM or a boy's read your DM, and you're like, they're gonna get back to me. Yeah, they're gonna. Yeah, I'm positive. I'm positive. She must have just forgot, or she must have seen my DM and she meant to reply and forgot to hit send, and like yeah, like she's gonna get back to me. She's gonna get back to me. Yeah, I'm sure she's gonna get back to me. We hit it off. I enjoyed her. I'm sure she enjoyed my company. Like yeah, okay, sure, buddy. Dylan, you're pronouncing it horrible. Please listen to some German, like me on Discord, to correct you, or watch some German documentary. Hey, Freeman, I'm sorry that I didn't say Volkssturm correctly. I didn't learn all my Nazi terminology. I'm Einsatzgruppen für Dylan Burns, okay? Volkssturm, the Reichspachtung and Gag und Duwagen Volkssturm, and like what the fuck do you want from me? I don't need to learn this nonsense. I don't need to learn the Nazi words. We won the words, so they had to learn it. We won the war against the Germans, so I didn't have to learn Kraut speak, and they have to learn English. That was the whole point we fought them. We're freeing them from the constant fear and stress. We're playing a long game. This war has been going on for 30 years. Go fuck off. Fuck off. It's been going on for 30 years, you pussy. But the mask, Jesus Christ, why is this text is too fast. But the mask came off only now. We're laying the foundations of security for our children and grandchildren, so we won't have to worry about them. So this is fucking hell, Jesus Christ. This is the task for our current time, and I doubt that we will certainly win. And I don't doubt that we will win. A small correction. You said we have no allies, but we have Belarus. Belarus is a part of Russia. No, Belarus is an independent nation. It's a republic. Oh, shit. You know what's interesting here? This guy right here, he's a Belarusian commentator. He's a Belarusian commentator. Number one, it's hilarious that your one ally is Belarus, but this guy's a Belarusian commentator, and so this guy says Belarus is a part of Russia. Look at him. Look at his face. Look how angry he is. He's pissed. And listen to what he says. No, Belarus is an independent nation. He interrupts to say Belarus is not a part of Russia. It's an independent nation. It's a republic. But the thing is, this moron has embedded himself with Russian nationalists, Russian ultranationalists, which view Novorossiya, they view Ukraine, they view Belarus, they view Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. They view it all as Russian clay. And hey, man, if you sleep with wolves, you can't be really surprised or angry when you get bit.